The grove of Jetavana hummed with quiet life, leaves whispering the truths of existence as disciples gathered before the enlightened one. Buddha's gaze swept over the expectant faces, his serene presence settling the minds of those eager to understand. A parchment lay before him, untouched yet full of potential, waiting to receive the lesson etched in ink. The nature of existence is like a stroke upon parchment, Buddha began, lifting the brush with deliberate grace. The movement begins, shaped by intent, yet it does not last. Just as our lives unfold moment by moment, Ananda watched as ink met paper, a single line forming, delicate yet bold in its presence. But Master, the stroke remains even after the brush has passed, Ananda said, his voice tinged with curiosity. Buddha's smile was gentle, eyes reflecting the depth of wisdom carried across lifetimes. So too do our actions and words linger beyond our presence, shaping the world after we depart. The disciples studied the stroke, recognizing its impermanence despite its seeming endurance upon the page. The finest parchment weathers with time, ink fading, fibers weakening, until emptiness swallows all that was written. Mahakassyapa's brow furrowed, his fingers tracing the air above the parchment as if grasping fleeting truths. If all fades, is there meaning in what we create? He asked, uncertainty weaving through his tone. Buddha placed the brush down, fingers resting lightly upon the parchment's surface. Creation is not for permanence. It is the unfolding of understanding, a reflection of truth in this moment. The ink dried, its presence unchanged yet always on the path toward dissolution, mirroring life itself. A calligrapher does not mourn the fading of his work, for his strokes were meant to teach, not to last. The disciples exchanged glances, contemplation settling into their minds like ink seeping into paper fibers. Write with intent, knowing impermanence does not diminish meaning. Only those who fear loss cling to illusion. A breeze stirred the parchment, its edges fluttering like ephemeral echoes of the lesson just spoken. Ananda exhaled, watching as the parchment trembled, its form vulnerable yet carrying the weight of wisdom. Then existence is a series of strokes, each marking the unfolding of truth, shaping yet never remaining unchanged. Buddha's eyes reflected approval, his voice calm as he spoke again. We do not suffer impermanence. We suffer resistance to its truth. The disciples bowed their heads, absorbing the teaching as the ink settled into the parchment's fibers. Beyond Jetavana, beyond the parchment, beyond even their own lifetimes, the wisdom remained, one stroke at a time. Another day, another lesson beneath the whispering trees. The disciples gathered as Buddha sat in silent contemplation, watching the morning unfold. A single parchment lay before him, untouched by ink. The disciples waited, their breaths steady, their minds open. Buddha lifted the brush, its tip hovering over the empty space. What do you see? He asked, his voice gentle. Ananda leaned forward, studying the blank parchment. Nothing, Master, he said hesitantly. Buddha nodded, dipping the brush into ink. Nothing and everything coexist, he said, tracing a single stroke upon the page. Mahakassapa watched the ink spread across the fibers. The stroke exists because of the emptiness, he murmured. Buddha smiled. Exactly. The meaning of a stroke arises only when emptiness allows it space to breathe. The disciples observed the character, sensing the balance between form and absence. Buddha lifted his gaze to the trees. Silence shapes wisdom. Absence deepens understanding. The space between words holds the weight of their meaning. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, rustling softly through the grove. The moment stretched, neither hurried nor stagnant. The pause between strokes gives each line its purpose, Buddha continued. A life without stillness is like ink without parchment. Ananda frowned in thought. So, Master, should we seek silence more than speech? Buddha dipped the brush once more, adding a second stroke beside the first. Speech and silence are not in conflict. They complete one another. Mahakasyapa touched the parchment, tracing the space between the lines, like the breath between heartbeats. Master? Buddha chuckled, nodding. Precisely. That breath holds life, unseen yet essential. The disciples reflected on the lesson, their minds settling into the understanding of emptiness. The unspoken carries meaning, Buddha said. In life, the unsaid often speaks the loudest. Ananda lowered his gaze, his thoughts reaching beyond words. Buddha watched the ink dry. The final stroke is not the end, nor the beginning, merely a continuation. The disciples sat in stillness, absorbing wisdom that lingered beyond ink, beyond parchment, beyond time itself. Another day, another lesson beneath the golden light of dusk. The disciples gathered, their hearts quiet, their minds open to wisdom's embrace. Buddha sat with a parchment before him, the ink from previous lessons resting upon the fibers of time's unfolding presence. He lifted the brush, its tip poised in contemplation. What remains of yesterday's strokes? He asked, his voice calm and steady. Ananda studied the parchment. The ink has settled, Master. Yet its meaning continues within us, he answered with quiet certainty. Buddha nodded, tracing a final stroke upon the parchment. Completion is not an end, but the opening of another path. Mahakasyapa watched the ink absorb into the surface. Does wisdom ever truly conclude? Master? He asked, his gaze thoughtful. Buddha smiled, placing the brush aside. Wisdom flows, like the river into the sea. It does not vanish. It merges. It transforms. The disciples listened, their breaths steady with understanding. The final stroke holds no destination, Buddha continued. It is but a moment between moments, carrying knowledge beyond its own existence. A gentle breeze moved through the grove, lifting loose leaves from the earth, carrying them softly into the unknown. The teachings are like ink, Buddha said. Once shared, they spread beyond parchment, beyond time, beyond the one who offers them. Ananda touched the edge of the parchment. So the lesson lives beyond this grove, beyond us, beyond the limits of speech? Buddha lifted his gaze toward the horizon. Exactly. What we learn, what we give, extends far beyond what the eye perceives. The disciples sat in silence, absorbing the truth that stretched beyond ink, beyond parchment, beyond the boundaries of form. The stroke is placed, yet the meaning continues, Buddha murmured. Each step forward carries echoes of wisdom, shaping what is yet to come. Mahakasyapa bowed his head. Master, does that mean our journey never truly ends? Buddha nodded. There is no ending. There is only movement, like ink upon parchment, like breath within silence. The disciples reflected on their lives, sensing the infinite unfolding within every lesson, every word, every stroke of existence. Take this knowledge beyond this grove, Buddha said. Carry it into the world, where wisdom finds new pages to write upon. Ananda carefully rolled the parchment, knowing its ink would fade, yet its meaning would endure. The disciples stood, the weight of understanding resting lightly upon them, shaping the days yet to unfold. The lanterns flickered as night approached, but the lesson remained, alive beyond ink, beyond parchment, beyond time itself. I fear I will fail. I fear the world's grasp is stronger than my will. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.